Welcome to Damn Good Movie Memories with your host, Brian Davis. This podcast is the cure for your long commute and super boring workday.
Championship Sunday, the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Inside the stadium, 91,000 cheering fans, 33 exit gates. Somewhere in the stadium, an assassin waits.
Pad off it, Gary. Pad off it quick. Don't go back to that shot unless I tell you. Understand? Just stay off it. Move!
Who will his target be? Charlton Heston, John Cassavetes, Martin Balsam, Beau Bridges, Marilyn Hassett, David Janssen, Jack Klugman, Walter Pidgeon, Gena Rowlands, Brock Peters, David Groh. 91,000 lives that will never be the same.
Why do you take such pleasure in telling people we're not married?
There's this guy. He's gonna kill me.
Still nervous? That's right. We're still gonna wait, too. Just don't get itchy.
What exactly did you see?
I told you. A man with a rifle.
You get your men into place ready to move, but it's no go till we get all the VIPs out. The VIPs. The probable targets.
SWAT 6 to all SWAT units. The suspect is up, armed, and at the north end of the parapet.
We're coming up in the 2-minute warning. You ought to have your people in place by then. When the 2-minute whistle blows, it's your ballgame. He's up!
2-minute warning. After that, sudden death. This is the motion picture you have heard about. This is the motion picture you have read about. Soon, you will be talking about the motion picture shock of the year. 2-minute warning.
Hey there, it's Brian Davis, and for this week's episode, we're going to cover the movie 2-Minute Warning from 1976. The studio is Universal Pictures. Release date was November 12th, 1976. The running time, 115 minutes. Roger Ebert at the time gave it 1 out of 4 stars. Here's his review. There's a simple clue that helps us understand what's so wrong with 2-Minute Warning, the new thriller about a gunman who opens fire at a pro football game. The movie tells us nothing about the gunman, but it takes great pains to establish other characters who are in the movie for a dreadfully simple reason. One by one, they will be shot. The clue is in the decision to keep the gunman anonymous. The movie's totally uninterested in the reasons behind his action. He's necessary only as an agent of violence, so we can be entertained by his victims. I found that disturbing. I knew going in what the movie was about. Few films have such blunt premises, and I knew 2-Minute Warning was supposed to be a thriller, not a social statement. But I thought perhaps the movie would at least include a little pop sociology to soften its bloodletting. Not a chance. It's a cheerfully unashamed exploitation of two of our great national preoccupations, pro football and guns. As I came out of the film, I overheard someone, a film student no doubt, analyze 2-Minute Warning as a individual violence versus institutional violence. Maybe that's giving the movie too much credit. I don't think it has that point of view. It's a machine for making money. It's kind of scary that people will pay to see it. The plot formula should be familiar by now. You might call this an arc film, with two of everybody. Put them on an ark, or a towering inferno, or the path of an earthquake, or aboard a crippled airliner. Give them minutes amount of personality, and we make sure we recognize them when they get wiped out. Movies like this give me a creepy feeling. That's the end of Ebert's review. Now look, I understand Ebert's point with this review, but I think what makes this film interesting, especially in 2024, is exactly what Ebert disliked about the film at the time in 1976. We never do find out anything about the shooter's background and why the shooter is killing people. That ambiguity is actually better, in my opinion. It doesn't matter why. It's actually scarier that way, honestly, to me. It's up to the viewer to figure out the whys. All right, let's get into the making of the film. So director Larry Pierce wasn't known as an action director. He was better known for drama films. But he was intrigued by the faceless, unknown reasoning of a man with a gun shooting random people. That's the plot he wanted. Now keep in mind, today, sadly, this does not seem like a unique plot, but it was in 1976. The film is based on a novel written by George LaFontaine, whom Pierce worked with prior to when he was a local TV news director in Los Angeles. LaFontaine was a lighting director and cameraman. The actual game footage was from the USC-Stanford game, which was held a year prior. That's why it's funny watching the film and hearing it was Los Angeles versus Baltimore. Any sports fan could tell it was a college game with college colors. Now, the production team actually contacted the NFL about using its teams and uniforms as part of the film, but NFL executives asked, well, what's the film about? And after being given a brief synopsis, they said they would not bother reading the script because there was zero chance of the league ever lending any support to such a movie. Interesting, a few years later, the NFL did not object to the movie Black Sunday from 1977. They used real teams and game footage as part of its terrorism/bloodshed set story. Pierce said it was one of the most complex films he had ever done because of the recreation of control rooms and trucks and the whole stadium, which had to look like it was filled with over 90,000 people. Pierce said they used over 500 extras a day, which was unheard of back then, and in some scenes it was over 2,000 extras. But again, this is why I liked films before CGI so much better. The director and the film crew had to be more creative and skilled in their craft than they are today. Today, a computer essentially solves these problems, but in turn, all of these CGI-heavy films all look the same, and it's really boring. In addition, Pierce was adamant for the rifle scope scenes that those shots be as realistic and modern as possible. And I will say, those shots do truly hold up today. It looks like you're looking through the scope of a rifle. More remarkable is that they were all done live. It wasn't post-production magic. A complication with the making of the film were the TV rights. TV networks would never air a film like this because of the intense and random violence. So NBC approached the studio and said if Pierce would essentially remake the film, mostly the ending, they could air it on broadcast TV as a 3-hour special release. Now, this was a big deal for films at the time because cable TV wasn't as popular as it would later become. Network TV was the bulk of the TV viewership. When Pierce read the script for the TV version, he found it appalling and refused to direct that version. So a film editor named Gene Palmer ended up directing the revised TV version. You can actually watch this version on the Shout Factory Blu-ray edition of the film, which I own, but I gotta say, it's pretty bad and kills the flow of the original film. In that version, it was revealed that the attack was done to cover an art robbery next door. Now, Pierce loved working with Charlton Heston and John Cassavetes, who were the utmost professionals. Pierce was initially nervous about Cassavetes since he was a director himself, but Pierce said that the process was seamless and wonderful. And by the way, if you didn't know, Cassavetes was married to actress Gena Rowlands, who also appears in the film. All right, let's get into the film. Unfortunately, there are no, and I mean no, clips out there for this film, so you're only going to get me, which is yet another reason to go check out the film. All right, so the film opens and we get an aerial shot of the Los Angeles Coliseum circa 1975. The stadium is empty prior to the championship pro football game that will be held later in the day. Essentially, this is like the Super Bowl, but they couldn't call it that because of copyright issues. We are then taken to a hotel in Los Angeles, and a person is looking through a sniper scope. And then he randomly shoots a man riding a bicycle. He kills the man, but his wife is unharmed. But she's horrified after crashing into some bushes. The shooter then methodically takes apart his rifle and puts all of his gear into his long jacket, which has many pockets, and he casually checks out of the hotel. We never do see his face. We don't see his body or hear his voice. Everything is his point of view, first person from the camera shots. We then meet Charlie Tyler, played by Joe Kapp, who's the starting quarterback in today's game for Baltimore. The woman in his bed wants some lovin', but hey, it's the championship game, and as Mickey from the Rocky series said, women weaken legs. So no fooling around for old Charlie. By the way, Joe Kapp was in the original Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds and played one of the guards. If you didn't know, Kapp also played in the NFL for the Vikings and the Patriots. We then meet Police Captain Peter Hawley. That's Charlton Heston, who is super busy with security requests due to the big game coming up. Next is the introduction of SWAT team leader Sergeant Chris Button, played by John Cassavetes. He had just made a bust and arrests a man in a suburban neighborhood. And then it's time to meet all the supporting cast of characters who are going to attend the game, all of whom were pretty well-known actors at the time, like David Janssen and Gena Rowlands. They play Steve and Janet. They're an old bickering couple. We meet a priest, played by Mitchell Ryan, who is friends with Charlie, and he's given free tickets to the game. We meet a degenerate gambler named Stu, played by Jack Klugman. He owes money to a high-profile bookie of almost $30,000. We meet a young married couple named Mike and Peggy, played by Beau Bridges and Pamela Bellwood. They have 2 sons. We meet a pickpocket, played by Walter Pidgeon, and his accomplice, Julie Bridges. This is actually Beau's real-life wife at the time. We meet a single doctor named Al, played by David Groh, who sits next to Lucy, played by Marilyn Hassett, and her date Jeffrey, played by John Corkus. He's more interested in the game than Lucy, meaning her and Al end up flirting. Finally, we meet a stadium manager, Sam McKeever, played by Martin Balsam. The sniper casually enters the stadium. He has a ticket. We only see his shoes, legs, and hands. He breaks into the side door of the stadium that isn't being guarded by a human, but 2 Dobermans. He actually seems prepared for these inconveniences as he has raw meat in his pocket, which the dogs immediately take and lose interest in the sniper. He then heads to the top of the stadium where the main tower is. We also see the control room of the TV broadcast, and the broadcasters are Howard Cosell and Frank Gifford. The radio announcer is actually, I think, Dick Enberg, and Merv Griffin sings the national anthem. All the characters I mentioned, they are going to go take their seats before the game starts, and all the while, the sniper is methodically putting his rifle together and loading. The build-up plays out like an episode of The Love Boat, with each character getting their own vignette. The game starts with a bang, no, not that type of bang, as Charlie throws a long touchdown to put Baltimore ahead 7-0. And by the way, Stu bet on Los Angeles. A born loser, you know. Charlie ends up getting hurt on the next drive after a late hit on him. Charlie's replacement leads Baltimore to another touchdown, and now they're up 14-0. Back at the police station, Captain Hawley receives details about the sniper shooting earlier that day. They know it came from a high-rise hotel. The victim was a middle-aged botany professor. He was married with 2 kids. Now, this doesn't make sense to the captain. It sounds completely random, like an insane person on the loose. We finally see an up-close shot of the sniper's face, mostly his eyes, as he looks through his scope as he targets a number of players on the field. He then focuses on the crowd, until he zones in on Mike, who has a pair of binoculars and is staring straight at him. And Mike notices a figure at the top of the stadium. To further complicate things, the President of the United States is en route to watch a game at the stadium. It's possible these killings aren't going to be random after all. Los Angeles kicks a field goal at the end of the half to make the score 14-3. When the second half begins, one of the TV cameras from the Goodyear blimp spots the sniper on the top of the stadium, and one of the directors in the studio notices as well. He radios to one of the police at the stadium. Sam heads to the TV truck to find out what's going on. The director tells Sam that the guy has a rifle. Los Angeles then scores a touchdown, making the score 14-10. Sam calls Captain Hawley that there's a sniper at the top of the stadium. Also, the Secret Service cancels the president's arrival to the game after receiving word of a sniper. Alright, there's a little less than an hour left. Will the sniper start shooting random people now that the president is no longer attending the game? And if he does start shooting, which of the characters are going to get shot? And how will the police get him, or will they get him? Is it even possible to coordinate an evacuation of a stadium full of people? And oh yeah, by the way, who wins the game? Will Stu be further in debt and likely dead from the bookies if the sniper doesn't get him first? So it's all answered in this film, so go check it out. So while this isn't a straight-up 70s disaster film like Earthquake, The Towering Inferno, or The Poseidon Adventure, it's still an entertaining thriller with a great cast, though I think it does kind of play out like a TV show of the era. For some, this film will be too slow-moving, but I actually enjoy the pacing. And again, with the boring CGI like today's films, I think this is much better and kind of refreshing, so check it out if you're so inclined. Alright, some fun facts. 2 Minute Warning was actually nominated for an Oscar for Best Film Editing, but it lost to Rocky. Universal Studios had a gimmick where moviegoers were not allowed to enter the theater at the moment the football game's 2 Minute Warning began in the film. Charlton Heston shot 3 short news scenes for the television version. Heston's hair is a different color, which is pretty noticeable for these new scenes. Heston joked while doing promotional work for the movie that it was a pleasant change to be doing these modern dress movies as you got to keep your costume. You got to remember, the majority of Heston's roles were in these lavish costume dramas and historical epics. Susan Backliny appears as a loyal Los Angeles fan who flashes her shirt at the cameras. It was seen briefly on a television monitor. Backliny was best known as the girl in the beginning of Jaws, who was the first victim of the shark while skinny dipping. And if you were wondering who won the real game back in 1975 between USC and Stanford, well, Stanford won on a game-winning field goal as time expired 13-10. Someone who's always a winner, that is special guest Samuel Wetz, who joins me to talk about yet another disaster film. We talked about Roller Coaster before, and now it's time for another 70s action thriller type film with 2 Minute Warning. How does he feel about it? Is it too boring, or does he like the pacing? We're going to find out all of that now as we talk to Samuel, and then I'll be back next week to talk about yet another random movie from my DVD collection.
Okay, we're back with Samuel Wetz, and he's going to discuss another disaster film, a little bit different, But yeah, so it takes place in the 1970s, but it's good to have Samuel back. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
No problem. So we covered, we mentioned Roller Coaster not too long ago. That was a few episodes back. So I figured you'd be down to talk about 2 Minute Warning. So this is more of a traditional kind of, psycho with a gun and he's randomly killing people, which actually makes it, it was scary and intense for back then. But if anything, it's far more relevant today than in 1976. How do you think this film holds up?
I think it holds up pretty well too, especially with, as you mentioned, nowadays, with stuff, not to get into particular, go into particular details, and everything, not to date this, but there's stuff in, events that happen that involve a shooter, you still see nowadays, and that's probably the most recent thing that, talking about this movie, that came out in 76, right? 76. Probably the closest thing you had something like that was like that happened in real life was I think it was in the late 60s, early 70s with the sniper from the Texas campus. I don't know if you're aware of that. Which they made a movie out of that as well with Kurt Russell as the shooter, which was TV movie. And they made a documentary about it too, which was really, really good. But I think this movie holds up really well too, and I even love the vagueness of the character. Who you don't really see his face all that often. And I mentioned this in Roller Coaster with the cinematography. The cinematography when it shows the shooter's point of view, which you don't really get that often, especially where you see him driving, you see him hands on the wheel, all that. I mean, you've seen Killer, like Halloween had some POV shots with Michael Myers, and Friday the 13th had that as well. But you never see a killer just like walking out of a building, going into the car, driving. I mean, I can't think of anything like that. Even having the POV shot when he's looking into the scope. Right. That is like fantastic. I love the cinematography of all that stuff.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I too really like it that the shooter isn't a known character at all. You never actually see that person's face, and so you said you did like it being ambiguous, and you like that the motive was unknown. It made it almost scarier.
Oh yeah, because it was a thing where even in real life too, you have these people who just do things just for the sake of doing them. Like I think this was I don't know where, I think it was in the 70s, but you had that girl who I think I forget what she did exactly. I know she killed some people in like a high school or office complex or something, and they asked her why she did it. She just said, "I just simply hate Mondays." Right. So yeah, people like that who just decides one day, I'm going to do that. I also love that he doesn't really speak. You never hear him talk at all until the very end. He says like one piece of dialogue, and that's it.
Yeah, which is a good call. The opening is really intense, and you kind of mentioned that too. You immediately see the sniper kill a random couple on their bicycles. It immediately sucks you into the film. How did you like that?
Oh, that was like, that set the tone for me. Like that anything was like could happen, just like that. Yeah. When you get the shot of him at the balcony, he's looking at the couple. You think he's just like maybe just looking at the scope, like just seeing how far it goes and everything. And then you hear, pow. Yeah. And you see the guy shot. And when the woman goes to her husband, and you see his eyes roll back, he's just making this face, and he's shot and bloody. Damn, this is gnarly. I mean, it is a gnarly movie. It sets the tone, like what you're gonna expect.
And it's weird, because I can only imagine when this came out how people felt, but it probably felt like, well, it's a movie. This wouldn't really happen. I mean, it's almost like you watching this today, and we kind of mentioned this. Like, this is happening a lot today. Like, it was pretty minimal back then, but now it's
very unfortunately it happens a lot. Unfortunately, it's a lot.
So most of the disaster films of the 70s, the cast is great. So in this particular movie, you get Charlton Heston, you get John Cassavetes, you have Jack Klugman, David Janssen, Gena Rowlands, Beau Bridges. I mean, it feels like kind of like those airport films. Were you surprised that, when you're watching this, like, I know that guy, I know that actor?
Oh, yeah. There was some faces I recognized, right? Of course, Charlton Heston. I mean,
sure,
you can't miss him. I mean, the dude's I know him from Planet of the Apes. That's how I know Charlton Heston.
Sure.
You goddamn dirty apes. And I even love to. There's even points in the movie where you notice it's a dubbed actor doing over like dubbing his dialogue.
Yes.
Because I don't know why. Because Charlton Heston, he talks like this in a lot of his movies, and sometimes it's almost hard to understand.
Right.
So you hear this dialogue of somebody talking. He's just like, "Get me the court martial," or like, "Get me the team out here and the sergeants." I love that. I even love the pretty much ensemble cast right here, where you have like all these different types of people.
Yeah.
You have a family who's going up to the game and stuff, and you have like this person going to the game, and you have the mayor. You have like this couple going there. You have I'm trying to think. You just have all these different types of characters and all the interactions.
Yeah,
that's what I love about the movie up to the point we get to the shooter, which
sure.
it all goes back and forth with like between him driving to the Coliseum, this people, that people, Charlie Tyler, who's one of the football players in the movie, him going over there to the game, all that stuff. I loved all that because it sets the tone. Well, I don't want to say sets the tone. It sets up the characters, who they are, what they're doing, and how they interact with each other. What are their motives? And I just love that, you just get to know these characters. So if something were to happen, not to say who exactly, but if something were to happen to these characters, you feel when they get shot or if they get shot, you're like, oh, the sniper's pointing at him. I always just shoot him,
because you don't know. You don't know who's going to get it and who isn't. Yep.
Oh yeah. And when it does happen, holy crap! There was a lot of people that got killed that even weren't getting shot.
That's right.
I almost swore I saw a little kid jumping off like a jumping balcony at one point. I was like, Jesus.
So did you like the pacing of the film? Was it too slow, or you like the side stories? And did you want more action, or was it okay to save it for the right moments?
I would say, depending on who you ask, they might at some parts maybe drag on a bit, because the movie doesn't really kick in till, like I said, the last 20 minutes when stuff really starts amping up. For the most part, it's just a build-up where you see the shooter, he's up at the scoreboard and everything. He's constantly, looking at the scope, looking around and everything. Some people are noticing him. People from the blimp are noticing him. And it's just all a moment of like, is he going to shoot? And I think that's what works about the film the best is like, you just don't know. It's almost unpredictable when and where he's going to shoot, who he's going to shoot.
Right.
Like, is he there to shoot a particular target? Is he shared to shoot players or what? You don't know. He's just there, and at any moment he's going to start firing, and it's up to the policeman there to stop him. From hurting any more people.
Well, what's interesting is also kind of a president angle, like the president of the United States is possibly going to show up, which was kind of interesting. That's kind of averted. But really, if you think back, because as we're recording this, it's probably been about a month since Donald Trump got shot at.
Oh, yeah.
There are some similarities where, at the Trump rally, they noticed some of the audience members noticed the guy on the roof. Well, they're noticing the same thing during 2-minute warning, and they're trying to warn the authorities to go get him. And it's kind of eerily similar about what happened.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, it's just eerily similar to a lot of things, really.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to these circumstances and this type of subject matter and like this type of like storyline, you're going to see a lot of similarities to stuff that happened during that time or after that time in various different circumstances, in a lot of different ways too, which is what I think is what makes this film still fresh and relevant today as it was in 76.
Yep. What were some of your favorite scenes in this?
I just love the whole thing where they're just watching them, they're in the boardroom, I think, or the little monitor area, and they're just looking at the cameras. You just see him like pacing back and forth, and everything, and like, what is he doing? I think he's praying, and all that. But the one scene, I like, and I think you know what I'm going to lead to. Well, two of them. It's when you see the couple, and they're leaving the airport, And she says, the woman, I'm forgetting the actress name, says, I'm a cop as well. Well, if you're a cop, then come and kiss me because I'm crazy about cops.
Yeah. It was the older couple. It was Gena Rowlands and David Janssen.
Oh my God, yes. I love them so much.
Because they're constantly bickering the whole time, too.
Bickering the whole time.
Yep.
Bickering the whole time and everything. I love that. And she's constantly taking drinks from somebody behind her. Yeah. And you can tell she's slowly getting intoxicated.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
But the other one I love is the family.
Oh, with Beau Bridges.
Yes, with Beau Bridges. And they're talking. He like the guy. It's like, you want a hat, sir? It's $4 or $5. And the little kid's like, my daddy don't have money because he got fired from his job. And he just smacks him. And the kid just cries, the mom. And then like he picks up the kid. He's like, it's okay, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm like, today, people react to that.
They would have been filming it. It would have been all over. Yeah, but back then it's like, kid shouldn't have said anything.
It's like everybody's not too long. Nobody's like, hey, he need to kill low. No, that. It's just like,
no.
You see him smack him.
Yep.
Cries, goes to the mother. Then he picks him up and acts like nothing happened.
Yep. Don't talk about my job, son. That's a great call out. The other one who was kind of interesting was Jack Klugman, who was in Odd Couple and many other. My dad actually kind of sat near him on a plane once, and he was in real life kind of a degenerate gambler. He loved to gamble, and he's the same character in this film.
Oh yeah, I love. I even love his whole scene, especially when he's talking to that crime boss and everything. He's like, I'm waiting for. Where's my 28 grand? I'm gonna get you. I'll get this Wednesday. Don't take me to the dog now.
Well, and then he hooks up with the priest because he thinks the priest is gonna help him. But
yes, I even love the thing. He's like, Father, I appreciate your prayers right now, but don't be praying for me right now.
Yeah,
I need to win this game. If your prayer ain't working here. And I love how he's like they're celebrating the game's like, yeah. Oh, I love that priest character so much too. He's just like when he's at the church and everything, he looks at his watches because he wants to go to the game.
That's right. Maybe it's just me, but some of this film almost feels like a long episode of like Chips, from the 70s. What did you think?
I wouldn't know Chips. I mean, I know of Chips,
okay.
So I wouldn't know per se, but I could definitely see like it's kind of like like a lot of these crime shows and everything, like these procedural shows and everything, like a long episode of like a procedural show at the time, maybe like of SWAT or
good call,
stuff like that at the time. But to me, I could definitely see this movie being an influence on maybe some shows that particularly deal with like shooters and episodes and what forth and all that. Which I think there has been a lot of like shows like that deal with like a shooter at a football game or something like that.
Did you like the rapport between like Charlton Heston's character, where he plays like a captain of the police force, and then the sergeant of the SWAT team with John Cassavetes? How did you like the back and forth between them?
Oh yeah, I like that too, because it wasn't like the typical like you go do your job and I'm doing my job. You had a little bit of that, but it wasn't like over the top. We're like, that's it, I'm taking things in my own hands and screw up the operation and all that stuff. Then you could tell these guys like they know what their place is, and they'll give each other like little shit, but they know like at the end of the day we gotta do what we gotta do to take this guy down. And I did love their interaction and everything, the exchanges they had, and I thought Charlton Heston was fantastic in this film.
Mm-hmm.
I may goof on his voice and everything and all that, and the obvious dub and dialogues of different people, clearly different voices, not his voice, but he did a really solid performance in the film. Yeah. So generally everybody I thought gave a good performance. Even I think the actor's name is Warren Miller, who plays the shooter. Even though he has no lot of dialogue, doesn't really on screen all that much. No. But what he does on screen, with like the almost this paranoia, poaching around, he's doing back and forth. It's like he sells it. Yeah, like, he really sells it and everything, and like the frantic, unpredictable nature he has with character. I really love that a lot.
To wrap up, some of your final thoughts, and would you watch this again?
Oh, I would for sure. I mean, just for the sole fact of just to see those POV shots again. I even love like a heartbeat, like music scores when they show him. It's like you hear almost like boom, 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 kind of heartbeats. I think I would appreciate this film a lot more if I was more of a sports fan.
There you go. Yeah,
I think I would. So that's the thing. If I was more of a sports fan, I probably would appreciate it a lot more. But as a film in general, I think it's really good. I would definitely go back to this and everything. And again, like the build up to that moment and everything, just like because you pretty much are on the edge of your seat through the whole movie, just kind of waiting what's going to happen.
And you had mentioned like on the Rollercoaster episode, Black Sunday. There's definitely this is similar to Black Sunday too.
Yes.
Which is another good one. Well, as always, thank you so much, Samuel. Thank you for checking it out, and we're gonna have you on again real soon.
That's right. And now, play us out, Merv Griffin. Sing the national anthem.
That was another great call. Yeah, Merv Griffin does sing the national anthem.
Yes, that was so funny. I laughed my ass off at that scene.
If you enjoy this podcast and are an iTunes user, please do the show a favor and head on over to the official iTunes page for Damn Good Movie Memories. Be sure to leave a rating and a review. This will allow the show to appear higher in the algorithm and spread the joy of this podcast to the masses. If you are not an iTunes user, you can still listen and subscribe on Podbean at damngoodmoviememories.podbean.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook under our Damn Good Movie Memories page. You can also listen to a limited number of episodes on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and be sure to tune in next week for an all-new episode of Damn Good Movie Memories.